Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Good evening and welcome to Mecklenburg County's Land Use Environmental Services Agency offices. I'm Dennis LeCarry. I'm the Senior Assistant to the County Manager, and Brooklyn Village is a project that I have oversight for. We're very excited tonight to continue our robust community engagement with this particular topic, which is around participation opportunities for folks with minority women, small business enterprises, both through pre-construction, construction, delivery, and even post-occupancy, depending on what your interest is. And please understand this is just the first in what will be a series of many, many, many conversations as this project advances, and you'll hear more about the timeline and the dollars involved and the opportunities from Monty Ritchie, who's President and CEO of the Conformity Corporation, and Don Peebles, who's Chairman of the Peebles Corporation, as they walk their way through this slide presentation. Then there will be opportunity for Q&A and some networking after. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over.
Great. Dennis, thank you very much. And good evening, everybody. Okay. So I'm Don Peebles, and I'm the chairman of the Peebles Corporation. And before we begin, I want to let you know that this is amongst the most important meetings that we're going to have within the community. We have a series of, we started with a town hall meeting last month, and we are working through a series of different topics of meetings to talk about our Brooklyn Village project. And but this one, in terms of providing economic opportunities for minority and women-owned small businesses, is critically important to our company, to our project, and to our team. And indicative of that is my partner, Conformity, is run by Monty Ritchie, and he is here after tearing his Achilles heel the other day, and will be going into surgery on Wednesday. I had encouraged him to have the surgery, and that we'd be capable of covering this meeting ourselves, but he wanted to be here because it was so critical to him. Now, also, aside from being a developer and business person, my most important role is that of a father. And I have a 13-year-old daughter who is a very active equestrian. And she is riding in one of the biggest horse shows in the country, and she rode yesterday, and she will be riding again tomorrow, which I will miss for the first time in about 9 years. And but I wanted to be here for this meeting because it is critical in so many different ways. As we know, one of the topics we're talking about nationally right now is economic opportunity. How do we provide better opportunities for African Americans, minority business people, and women? And so in my industry in particular, we have a significant underrepresentation of diversity across the board. And so part of what we are going to do at Brooklyn Village is change that here in Charlotte. So we want to make sure that we provide an environment of opportunity on a transformational basis. And so when we submitted our bid, we committed to 35% of the approximately $650 million we will spend on this project to minority, women-owned small businesses. That has not been done before. It would be a transformative effort, and we intend to do that. Not going to be easy, but it can be done. And our company has done that time and time again. I'll give you a quick summary of our company, and then we can move on with our program. The Peebles Corporation is a company I founded, and I founded it in 1983 when I was 23 years old. Now, just to give you a little bit of my background, I am the son of an auto mechanic, the grandson of a janitor, and my paternal grandfather was a hotel doorman. So both of my grandparents grew up in the segregated South. In fact, one in North Carolina and one in rural Virginia. So I understand the challenges of opportunities of getting a fair shot, but I understand the benefits of when you get one, what it can do. So my company, as I said, started in 1983, and by 1986, I had won the rights to develop my first office building, and that was in Washington, D.C., and it was a mayor and a government that was focused on minority participation. And that was a city that was 70% African American. The mayor of that city, the newly elected mayor of that city, Marion Barry, committed to 35% of all contracts would go to minority businesses. So I ended up winning the rights to develop a major office building in DC, where I ended up owning 50% of the project. And that was in an area somewhat similar to Brooklyn Village. It was a once thriving black community, an economic engine for the city, and then it went to decline after the '68 riots, and then the the economic depression that took place thereafter. And so my building was given the role of igniting redevelopment. So that project, we had significant diversity. One, we had unheard of ownership diversity. And then as we went through the project, we created opportunities for contractors. We also brought in local small businesses as retailers, and our 3 new startup retailers are in that building today, still. And that building was delivered in '89, so it's been, 30 years or so ago. So it's been a long time, and those businesses have continued to prosper. We started a minority janitorial services business that went around the city and did our buildings and then did other buildings as well and grew. So that one building was about $10 million of project cost. So today, though, fast forward, our current projects combine for over $4 billion of development activity. And, for example, one of our more recent projects is a conversion of the original New York Life Insurance Company building in New York City in Manhattan, and that's a $550 million project budget, and that's halfway done right now. So our company's grown, but we grew because we got a chance of opportunity. And so tonight, we're here to tell you about our project, but also to hear from you. What are the challenges? And how can we make it so those challenges are not present in our development? What can we do to think out of the box to provide access to opportunities? We're expecting talented, bright business people to come and get involved in our project, deliver a good product for us, but we want to make it a level playing field in an environment, in fact, a little bit unlevel, to make it so there's an opportunity here. So we want to hear from you on how we go about doing that. And at this point, I'd like to have, we are a team of, by the way, just to give you a sense, and Monty's going to talk about his company, Conformity. We're a team of 3, the Peebles Corporation, Conformity, which is based here in Charlotte, and then Stantec, which is is a global architectural and design firm, one of the largest in the world. And Jeffrey Simon, representing Stantec, is here as well. And so at this point, I'd like to ask Monty Ritchie to come up, talk a bit about his company, and walk you through kind of what our vision is and what the process is here. But thank you for being here.
We have been highly specialized from day one. Everything that we've done is within 3 miles of Trade and Tryon. The project that folks generally recognize most quickly is the Lowe's Home Improvement Center in South End that has the housing and mixed use applied directly to the store on the edge of Dilworth and along the Blue Line, the transit line that was opened several years ago. That building actually is right here on the lower left-hand side, the building at the corner of South and Magnolia. Some preservation work here in Elizabeth in the National Register District, infill in Elizabeth. This is mixed-use office and housing. This is all office up top, retail, and then there's about 70 housing units. And we did this in partnership with Lowe's Home Improvement Centers as their flagship location for their entire chain. So that's what opportunity has looked like for us. We've been doing this for some time now. I built my family here, and even though I'm from Pennsylvania originally, I would say we're North Carolinians now. Both my children were born here. I got married here and grew my business here. So I am an adopted Charlottean, I think. The city's been great to me. The relationship with Dawn has been an excellent opportunity, and with Stantec, who actually made the introduction to put Peebles Corporation and Conformity Corp together. That's what it's looked like for us. What we're here to talk about today is what it hopefully will look like for y'all going forward. What the opportunity looks like for minority, woman-owned, and small businesses in Charlotte. So just to give you a feel for scale, This project is laid out across 17 acres. If you know the swim center uptown, Marshall Park on one side of the MAC Aquatic Facility, there's about 11 acres there. And then you have the Bob Walton Plaza, which is on the south side of the MAC, about 5 acres and change there, a total of about 17 acres. We project that it'll take us 10 years to complete the project. We might get it done a little bit faster than that. I don't know that it would take us a whole heck of a lot more. But one of the things that's interesting about that and unique about a project of this size is you have time to consider how you might scale your business, partnerships that you might form. There's plenty of time to think deeply about how you get from point A to point B, do the research that you need to do, build the relationships that you need to build, and figure out how you might get involved with what it is that we're doing here, which leads us to dollars. 10 years, and we will spend, right now we project $683 million. So Don mentioned the 35% participation, which points to roughly $220 million to $225 million, something like that. Project may grow a bit. We have some interest in some other land around the site, but 220 million is probably enough to get most everybody out the door, I think, out of bed and thinking hard about how they get their piece. If you think we need to be larger to get your attention, I suppose you can let us know that. So there's a number of opportunities that go along with what it is that we're doing in Brooklyn Village, and we put them into 4 different categories. The first of those is ownership, pre-construction, construction, and then operations, which would be things like landscaping and that type of thing whenever the project is completed, any number of services that go into supporting real estate once it's operating. The ownership piece, Don and I have addressed together. We are each the sole stockholders of our own companies. Neither of us has partners in our operating company. And for the record, we've actually gotten this question in some of our other sessions. For those of you who haven't done any research, Don is much further down the road with the scale of his company than I am with mine. And Don is the majority partner, so if that is of interest to some folks in the room, you should be aware of that. Pre-construction, I think architects, engineers, attorneys. This is a particularly challenging sector of the work for us. We're doing this work right now. We're interviewing a couple major firms that have. It's been instructive for me to be alongside Don and watch how this interview unfolds. Always professional, but maybe with some demands that firms of the sort that we're interviewing have not considered before. Demands might be a little strong. Let's say folks want to win business. They're trying to figure out how to win the business, and our group as a customer is asking them to consider some things that perhaps they haven't considered before. So that's been great. And one of those things is partnering with a minority-owned law firm, for example. We're interviewing a couple very large law firms, and not real happy with the minority participation, so we're trying to come up with creative ways to improve on that. It's an example. Construction, I imagine, speaks for itself, but again, there are instances where certain disciplines, it's easy to find labor that's certified, tradesmen, and other instances it's not so easy. We'll work with consultants to try and achieve those goals. I know Stephanie Burwald and Carol from Lillen Associates are here somewhere if they can raise their hand. So they're back here. Okay, so Stephanie and Carol here, who are minority participation consultants, one group that we're talking to about helping us improve on how it is that we might go about getting our participation percentages up. And then finally operations, which I've already covered. So I touched on a couple of these. These are some of the strategies that these groups will help kind of guide me through some of the strategies that we're working on. You see a couple law firms there, and I'm going to leave a lot of the details out of this, but just know that there are some, larger firms, smaller firms. We're trying to create unique partnerships. Don and I are a unique partnership. I was fortunate to get as far down the road as I did. I'll I'll claim we got as far as we did because we know what we're doing, but we needed a bigger partner to get over the finish line, and the Peebles Corporation came and joined the team, and that's been a real blessing. You might think about the opportunities that you're looking at in similar ways. Who do you know that is perhaps running a business that's similar to yours that is larger? Might be a minority firm, might not be. We're going to be looking for opportunities to create partnerships, JVs, lots of tools that, frankly, Peebles has more experience with than I do. But we'll work together. We'll work with consultants. We'll work with Teresa McDowell, who's sitting right here from the county's office, who specializes in their participation, drives their entire participation program. Had a meeting with Teresa last week, and she clued us in on a lot of tools that I'll share with you here in a little bit when Teresa's done. She's actually going to address the group here in just a short bit. Legacy Real Estate Advisors, small firm locally. I want to acknowledge my partner, Rodney Faulkner, at Legacy Real Estate Advisors, and thank you for being here this evening, Rodney. Yellow Duck Marketing, Urbane, Colgenest, and Stone, and Real Estate Advisory Services. These are all local firms. One of the things that's come up again and again is not only minority participation, but are you going to keep the money in Charlotte? Sometimes what we hear from folks is, are you going to bring in a bunch of folks from outside so that all the money leaves the city? Well, all four of those firms are local firms. Two of them, one is minority woman-owned, another is woman-owned, and a second up there is woman-owned, and then Colgenest and Stone, not minority, local. But we didn't say 100%, we said 35%, right? So it's still a big number, and we're going to get those victories where we can, and they'll come intermittently. I'd like to introduce Teresa, who's going to talk a little bit more about the county's program, perhaps a lot more. I think one of the things you want to take away from this meeting is, well, we are going to work harder and think harder than most might. At the end of the day, you need to work to get your business certified, and that's going to be key. Teresa's going to talk to us about that.
Well, my job tonight is to talk about certification as relate to Mecklenburg County. A lot of times people confuse Mecklenburg County with the city of Charlotte. We are two separate entities, but we do collect data from the City of Charlotte Small Business Inclusion Program. In Charlotte, in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area, the City of Charlotte is the only entity that we will accept certification from. Charlotte Business Inclusion, you can put www in front of Charlotte Business Inclusion. That will take you to the City of Charlotte's website and to the application for certification. The second one is the Office of Historically Underutilized Business with the state of North Carolina. If you certify your company with the state, Mecklenburg County will accept that certification. Note that. Right now, as of today, it will take you about 4 weeks to get a response back if you submit your certification. The last one is North Carolina Department of Transportation. That is the third certification that Mecklenburg County will accept. If you need help with your certification, all three agencies, they have people called certification specialists. They are available to you Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock to help with certification. The City of Charlotte and NCDOT certification is a paper application, so you will need to print it off and submit it. The Office of Historically Underutilized Business, that certification is on a timer. So once you start completing it, you need to go back and visit it. If you don't do it, you have to start all over again. So my suggestion is to print it off, complete the application, and then sit down and key it all in. And if I can help you, feel free to call me. The bid opportunities. Once you're certified, I need to stay here. Once you're certified, the IPS system, you can register through vendor link to receive updates. So if you want to know what else Mecklenburg County is doing, you can check out Interactive Purchasing System, ips.state.nc.us. So that's where all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina post upcoming opportunities. A lot of you've heard Commissioner Leak speak to certification and how important it is. Well, today is proof. If you're not certified, you're going to miss opportunities. So I encourage you to get certified, and if I can help you, please reach out. I'll be here and answer any questions.
So please feel free to visit our website if you just need a little cheat sheet on what it is that we've just covered. Don't feel like you have to remember everything. Just visit our website. There's a little drop-down tab there. You can pick up all the same information, and if you do drop your email in there, I'll pass it to Teresa's office. Our team will, and that way, when if there are opportunities later on for perhaps outreach sessions, which I think the county sometimes hosts to help folks complete their work on their paperwork and so on, you will be added to that distribution list so that we know how to get in touch with you. Does that make sense? Here again is our contact information, so you can see where we are on Facebook and our website and Twitter handle. Some contact information there at the bottom for the county. Dennis, do these slides go up after every meeting somewhere on your, so if you can actually go see every one of these PowerPoint presentation decks as well, starting with the kickoff by visiting the county's website. Not difficult to get to, just use Google, put a couple keywords in there, Brooklyn redevelopment, and you're likely to get to everything that you need on the county's website. That's it. We're going to take some questions and answers. I was thinking that we might, Don, you want to spearhead this, and I thought maybe we'd go three wide and loop Teresa in when needed so that she can help us with technical questions.
My name is Donald Wimbush. I am the business developer for AAC Enterprise, and I'm proud that you guys have made it here, and you partner with an organization as Little Associates. This project is big and huge. And what I want to hear from you is what are some of the challenges that you have heard from the contractors or the other business owners here in Charlotte first? That's what I want to hear first.
Well, I think, one, I can tell you on a national basis, our company, which I neglected to mention, we do business around the country. So, for example, from Charlotte, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, the Bay Area and San Francisco Bay Area, Las Vegas, and looking at some other places. So what I see is the same challenges across the board. There are a couple things. One, access to opportunity. So where, many times, developers, business people are very efficient. So normally that means that you're trying, in a risky business like development, that means you're going to mitigate your risk. One way to do that is by doing business with people who have performed for you before. So when you do that, then that kind of closes the opportunity. And look, we do that too. We just happen to do that with a bit of a different approach to it. But we try to we're using the same contractor that built my first building that's building an SLS hotel for us in DC right now. So that's, I think, access to opportunity. Second, access to capital. I think that is, I see minority businesses across the board having challenges in terms of finding access to capital. And then capacity. It's a $683 million project, and unfortunately the nature of my business is that it'll be $750 million by the time we're done, if we're lucky. So that's those are large numbers, and that means that the subcontractors and the consultants have to be of a certain scale to handle that financially and to be able to perform on that. And so, again, if you're going to be efficient, then you're going to pick one subcontractor for various categories because it's easier to manage and less risk. So that's been a part of that process. So, what we look at doing is doing it a little differently. So, for example, we met with law firms here, and they've never, I don't think they've seen this before. We asked each of them to give us a breakdown of their workforce and their partners and their associates at their firm, racially, gender, and so forth. And what I saw was you had, interestingly enough, women were way further ahead in the law firm area. There were many more women associates now than, say, minorities, and almost an equal balance of associates. Now, of course, at the partner level, it was different. So what we've told these firms, look, we can't make them change their business overnight. So we've said, look, if you want to do business with us, you need to partner with a minority owned firm or a woman-owned firm and come back to us with that kind of arrangement, because our goal is 35%. And so you're going to need to find some way. And what that does is it gives a smaller firm the opportunity to do a larger scale of work. Then in New York City recently, which is, by the way, the city of New York is 67% minority, and it's 53% female. And their minority contracting is less than 2%. And their women-owned contracting business is just a little over 2% out of their $18 billion a year city budget. So that gives you, so that's a really challenging environment. And so we're building a building there now, and that's a large-scale $550 million project. And so we wanted a minority vendor for one of the largest pieces of work. It's a restoration, so the facade restoration. So we couldn't find anybody that could do it, but we got bids that they could do the job, but it would take a year, and that was about like everybody else. But they were having some difficulty with bonding, so we split it up, and we said, okay, if you do half the building, that means you'd have it done in half a year, right? And so we have two contractors, a minority firm and a majority firm, and we just cut the building in half. One group does two sides of the building, the other two sides. So creative ways like that. But that's the challenges. It's that opportunity, and so in order for that to change, there has to be a will at the ownership level, because ultimately it's the ownership, and unlike the government, by the way, we're not as limited. See, the government's got to go through all these competitive bidding processes. They've got to qualify people, et cetera. They've got to have bonding as issues. We as private owners have the flexibility. We don't have to go through competitive bidding. We're not using any public money. So we are free to negotiate arrangements, and that's where you'll see change. And Monty is committed, just as committed as we are, to doing this. And he's on the ground here every day, and he's been, focusing on doing that. And so you want to add to this a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think there's no shortage of folks who were here for Vllage meeting a couple weeks ago. Well, actually about a week and a half ago, which was a great introduction for me to a number of business owners who are pursuing opportunities like this. And then I have some strategic relationships myself. I'll point to Rodney Faulkner again and a handful of others, but Rodney's in the room with us tonight who are making introductions, and I would encourage you to do the same. I'm here day in and day out, and not afraid of a few extra hours in an effort to promote what it is that we're doing here. So I've spent well, by way of example, we wrapped up the Vllage meeting. I know I spent time with Marguerite, and probably who's here on the right in the back there, and probably 15 other folks after that meeting ended. So we want to get the message out that we're serious about getting this done, coupled with Don's points that really all we can do is cheer hard and say we're serious. But at the end of the day, it's going to fall to business owners to take it to the next step. If there's some little piece that's missing, we might be able to figure that out, but it starts with getting one foot in front of another and making the choice to, you can't rely on that, right? I mean, the first thing is to sort of move forward and then let's see what your hurdles are. Teresa told a great story that I just found stunning whenever we met last week, that this individual had looked at a big stack of paper related to chasing a landscape opportunity. And he balanced the big stack of paper against something that created a little fear for him, which is, we want to come look at your equipment. That was part of what was in the RFP. And I think this fella just got cold feet for any number of reasons that I won't claim to understand, but he got cold feet. He didn't want folks coming to look at his equipment, never finished the paperwork. Well, at the end of the day, I think it was like flappers to keep the grass clippings from shooting out and hurting people, and maybe some steel-toed boots and some gloves or something. That was all they needed to look at. They didn't care about how pretty the equipment was or where it was stored or anything. So those types of things are those are the tweeners that we want to find, where folks aren't taking it to the next level for reasons that maybe aren't really barriers. So let's talk about those things, and we'll try and get you pointed in the right direction. And Don talks a lot about capacity building, so it's exciting, the notion of seeing a company take it to the next level because they clear this, that, or the other hurdle.
My name is Leroy Thompson, and I'm a real estate developer and a construction manager, business development consultant. I guess first of all, let me just thank you, Mr. Peebles. I don't know if I've ever seen 35% participation ever taken very seriously on a project of this magnitude. So the fact that you're laying that out and have done it in your other projects is extremely commendable, so I appreciate that. I guess my questions, when I looked at they're surrounding the buckets of opportunities in ownership and the pre-construction and operation. When you say ownership, I guess the first question is threefold. Is your structure from the real estate development, construction managers, how that structure is? Are you going to be the real estate developers and the construction? I wasn't in the first meeting, first of all. In the construction managers, are there opportunities for GCs or developers? When it says ownership, does that mean that you're going to bid out a tract and maybe minority developers can come and bid actually on the hotel or the office? I guess that's the first question. In ownership opportunities, like for the businesses or something like that, let's say if you designated, we want to have a restaurant, and there's some opportunities for minority vendors who can get creative and bring that to what we're looking for in our concept plan. Is that an opportunity? I guess I'm asking, what are those ownership opportunities in the project? It is going to be, what's the structure, and is there going to be opportunities to participate as an owner of the hotel or the mixed-use mix that you've had?
Well, first, I think don't just thank me. It's a team effort. So Monty has been every step of the way with the 35% objective and goal. And Mecklenburg County, the county manager, Dennis, they set that as a criteria to encourage minority participation. And we were more aggressive at it because we've had history and understand the challenges. Me being a minority business owner, I understand the challenges and the opportunities. And so that was a team effort for all of us. We did that together. We responded to the RFP aggressively because the county indicated it was important to have an environment of opportunity. And so that's why we did that. And we wouldn't have done business with Monty and Conformity if that was not something that was in his DNA as well. So now, in terms of opportunities, look, we are open. Part of the discussion is to get a sense of what people are interested in, what their desires are, and what their capabilities are. And this is the beginning of a process. But we have all start off with the mindset we are in business. This is business, and the way we get rewarded with business is money. And so when there's pursuit of economic opportunity, it's tough. So that means that everybody else here who wants an opportunity needs to get aggressive and creative, just like we were to win. So that'll mean that some of you all should join forces together and figure out how to get a bigger piece, And I started my company in an environment back in 83 and 86 when I did my first building, where the way it worked was a large majority developer would get 5 or 6 of us and give each one of us 4 or 5%, so no one would be powerful enough to effectuate change. So I didn't do that. My first deal was half because I wanted to be able to deliver on what the expectations are. So the ownership opportunities, look, I've talked to Bobby Drakeford about this. The ownership opportunities are, well, there's going to be opportunities for developing some of the parcels potentially. There's going to be opportunities for someone to come in and invest in one of the buildings or the like. There will be opportunities to start small businesses where we will take some risk on who our tenants are to encourage locally, grown small businesses, and give them an opportunity to open up businesses within the facility that we're building. And there'll be opportunities on an ongoing basis on suppliership and so forth. So there's a broad area of opportunities. If you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a retail session and economic opportunity coming up in 2 weeks. In fact, I was talking to some county folks and some other Peebles folks before the session started. Who do we want to have join us that's succeeded locally, particularly with retailing, and who might be able to speak to some of the challenges they've experienced growing their businesses, minorities in particular. So please take a look at the calendar and make sure you're aware of that one. So that session, retail development and economic opportunities, is going to be pointed a little more specifically, sir, at the idea of small minority-owned operating companies. Think, restaurant cleaners, all the types of inline retail that you can picture in a shopping center. Who might want to be there, and what challenges they have. I know one of the things that Don and I have talked about is, and I want to preface all this with the same things that Don was saying. I mean, companies need to be qualified, right? They need to be capable of what it is they say they're capable of doing. But I've often said to folks that, and I'll just broach this topic one time because it's about as raw as it gets. But if folks were faced with the life challenges that I was faced with, and they didn't look like I did, they would not be where I am most times. And so we're looking for folks who I think are otherwise having some success, but are perhaps encountering some challenges that there's some path to overcoming. So the thing we talk about most frequently is, if the tenant's otherwise able to pay a reasonable rent, but the fit out of a commercial space is $100,000, and they can stomach a little additional rent, but they can't stomach the $100,000, maybe we'll be a little more inclined to spend money on upfits than the average landlord would be. That's an example. It's not a commitment. It's an example. There's a million examples, but we are going to think long and hard about it and try and find paths. We're also going to have a couple suites that are much smaller than what the market might typically ask for. If the market doesn't typically want something smaller than 1,800 feet for retail, even that's kind of small, maybe we'll have some 1,000-foot spaces, 800 square foot spaces, just to drive the gross cost of the space down, that type of thing. It's early. All we have in front of the county right now is schematic plans. There's lots of work to be done there. But we'll be laying awake at night over it trying to figure out how we do it best. That's the goal, is to do it the best that it's been done.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Simon from Stantec. As Monty and Don have said, this is a big project. 10 years is a long time. I'm in the very fortunate position of being responsible for a lot of the front end, the design work, the engineering, a lot of that kind of thing. I don't know all of your occupations or your skills or the kinds of companies that you represent, but I can tell you that we are actively in the Charlotte market right now looking for the kinds of opportunities that my partners here have been talking about. And those kinds of opportunities are going to take place, in the next year or two. So you might have to wait a little while for that 1,000-foot store, but we have opportunities today, and we're putting that team together today. So we will be filing plans in the fall and starting to go into design really this coming year. So if any of that, engineering, environmental work, any of those kinds of issues that go into the design work are your specialty, please get in touch with me or with Monty or with Dawn or with Teresa and let us know so that we can talk with you. And we're willing to do the same kinds of creative works that Don and Monty have been talking about to try to make these kinds of front-end opportunities available.
Hi, my name is Dawn Nicole. My business is Grow Getter. It's a national business growth strategies, and I do have specialties in system development life cycle, so I understand. Quick question, you guys spoke a lot about strategic partnerships and us working collaboratively. will you be publicizing the authoritative source, the list? So as you guys start to fill the gap, the 35%, and businesses start to go through whatever that process is, transparency, where can we in the room get a copy so that if we want to start to engage and work together, we can? Also, a two-part question, is there anyone at this level that's brokering those relationships before they get to you? So someone who's funneling, putting same like-minded businesses together so that we can start to collaborate.
Is generally I don't know, so that's my answer generally. But those are all great questions that are the type that kind of point to the types of things that we need to be thinking about. I mean, I honestly don't have a feel for where Teresa's unit lets off in terms of how hard they're pushing to, say, create those types of alignments that you referred to. You know, I can tell you that, and again, I can't flatter this guy anymore, so I'm going to leave his name out of it. But, you know, a friend of mine in the room now is looking at those types of things, right? And he's saying, hey, you know, I know this guy, and then he brings that guy, and he says, you know, here's what this guy does. I think you ought to do, you know, you ought to see if you can make something up here, here, and here. So, I think it would be reckless and just frankly inaccurate for me to say that I'm capable of I personally am capable of reconciling, you know, all the opportunities and how people might get connected. But I think that's something we probably need to think about in terms of creating a tool. And I don't know the answer to that one, but I think that's a great point, something we need to work on. Okay. Gosh, I should have seen that coming from like 30,000 miles away. That's what we're talking about right there, I think. All right, thank you. I'm going to give you a card.
One of the things that we've done nationally, and we do this in pretty much every city, is we hire a firm, especially in the construction trades industry. It's a very specialized industry, so we hire a company to do just that, to go out and look for and vet minority contractors and women-owned businesses, and then to the degree if they're not certified, to actually help them get through the certification process. But we'll make an award once we're comfortable that they meet the criteria of certification. And so we will have that. We do that, and there are firms that do that nationally and then locally. So we'll look to try to find someone who knows all of the major and small trades. And so they will also be basically matchmakers. So they will take a major mechanical, electrical system firm and pair them with a smaller firm and have a joint venture arrangement with them. So we're going to do that in Boston, for example. What we're doing is we're taking a minority general contractor who's exceptionally qualified, but the projects that we're doing there are very large in scale, and we're teaming them up with a very large established majority contractor, general contractor, on a 70-30 split. And so therefore you have this relationship that hopefully goes beyond our projects and goes into the marketplace. And so we'll look to do something like that will be big and meaningful. And so we will, and so that there's a system to how to do this, and then we'll bring in other consultants who can help us with some of the professional services and the like.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Burns, and it's my wife Ida, and we're owners of Kidd Construction. We're licensed commercial general contractors here in Charlotte with a proven track record, but we are a small company. And one of the challenges that we have is that when we go for a lot of these commercial projects, they generally go out to the big boys, especially in one where you have like several buildings, commercial buildings, both retail and office space, and it's hard to get in because the whole project goes to one general contractor, and then they have, you know, the opportunity to make a decision on who they piece it out to, and generally it goes to, you know, their people. My question is, and you kind of answered my question just a few minutes ago, will you be making a room for smaller general contractors such as myself that could come in and do like some office space upfit or some retail upfit, or is it just going to go to the general contractor, whoever wins the bid, and they will just piecemeal it out themselves, or is that something you will be controlling?
No, we'll have a major role in that. In fact, in New York City, we have a meeting with the general contracting team, and the development team in our office once a week every Tuesday, with the idea that I can be able to be in the office and go in and sit in on the meeting, and it focuses only on a status report on minority contracting. We have a consultant that's a general contractor themselves, but also has that professional services. They do it for governments around New York and around the country, and they are contracted to help us accomplish and meet our goals. And so we have those meetings, and so there are times where I won't sign a subcontractor because I'm not satisfied with the effort of diversity, so I'll push it back and make them go back and rebid it again. So no, look, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, so I understand how it works. And so we got the balance of banks who are imposing, someone's going to have to lend us a large chunk of that $683 million, so they're going to have a say, and part of that say is that they're going to want the general contractor to be bonded, the major subs have to be bonded, and because they want efficiency. And of course, if we ever defaulted, they want to be able to come in and take over and finish the project efficiently. So we have to balance that out with how we manage the project. And so, but we have a process of doing that, and that will be what we would do here, because it's not going to be easy. Let's think about this. We are offering an economic opportunity of $683 million. Now, this room should be packed, and there should be people standing outside around the block for $683 million. That is a lot of money, right? So part of that is that everybody's got to get more aggressive on these opportunities. You all need to get the word out as well. And again, I say that you all, look, we can't have people come in. This is a project that's going to, that's sizable. So someone who does renovations of a house, this is not their opportunity. It's not their space. It's people who do commercial work who've done that. And then some of you all ought to get together collectively and build greater capacity. By the way, that's how business is done. Everybody learns to work together. And by the way, you don't have to like who you do business with. You can respect them a little bit, but you can trust them, but you don't have to like them. And, and so, your goal is to grow your business. And so the way I've seen people do that throughout my career is they partner up. So look, we have the financial capacity to do the project ourselves, but we're not from Charlotte, and we don't know the market here. He does. He's been very successful, and his company has been very successful at developing in Charlotte. So collectively, we have a much stronger team, and we had a winning team as a result. So you all ought to start joining forces and produce some winning teams so you can get a big chunk of this, as opposed to saying, chop it up small enough so I can do it. Why not say, we want a bigger piece because we partnered up?
I see a lot of new faces in here. My name is Carol Lilly, and I'm a consultant in construction. And I see a whole lot of new faces, Teresa. I think we have a lot of work to do, you do, of getting them registered. You have a lot of work. The one thing they've been talking about is being ready for this project. There's no need in you coming in here and say, oh, how wonderful, how great. Well, are you ready? Have you done what you need to do to be able to participate? Are you registered with the county? Have you taken care of that? See, a lot of times in going through these processes, we want everybody to give us something or give us a little break, but we need to bring something to the table. And so I'm strongly emphasizing to those in here who are not registered with the county, make sure you see Teresa and take care of that, because that's not what I do. Not yet. But anyway, I want to make sure that we're ready for the project. If you're not registered, that's a negative for you already. You've already started off on the wrong foot. And because I'm gonna go around and ask you what's your name, and then I'm gonna look it up. So the one thing is, that's the only thing. I just want to make sure that you're giving such a great presentation. This is my second time hearing it, but we need to be ready. We need to be ready.
By the way, I do want to say something else, though. She's a lot of work to be done, but by the way, there's a lot of work to be done, because think about the people who aren't even here. So again, $683 million, okay? So, and by the way, it's not a limit of 35%. That's our goal. I would like nothing better for it to be 90%. So I think that, what we need to do is be ready and also, again, know where you are able to compete effectively and perform. No sense in getting an opportunity and not performing, right? So,
Okay, my name is Gregory Falcon. I'm a native of Charlotte. I have a real estate company and a dump truck company. I spoke to Monty and Udon the last time I was in here. We want to talk about working capital. So what me and my partners did, we formed a joint venture and bought 10 new dump trucks, which seems to be a anomaly for most people in the city to see minorities with new dump trucks. So we're getting more opportunities because we have the equipment that's reliable. So we're able to work more hours and do more jobs. My question to you guys is working capital. I think a lot of people struggle with getting working capital. For instance, when you do a contract with the city, they will give you an advance up to $100,000 for your payroll to get started, because everybody got that net 30. You got to be able to pay people for 30 days or 45 days before we receive payment from you guys. So my question is, your working capital, do you have anything in place for when people do win a contract with you or trying to attain a contract to be able to get financing, the money to be able to do the work? Because a lot of guys come up short.
now, no. And by the way, okay, no, right, but okay, no, hold up. Okay. But no. And also, and we have no intention of it. By the way, this is the private sector. We're all competing to make money. So we're not looking, see, the goal here is 35%, but also to demonstrate that we get a equal or superior product with diversity. We get a better product with diversity because we include more people in it. But everybody's got to come to the game, with it, because again, we're in business, and so. But this is the banking capital of the South and the second largest banking capital in the United States. Go knock on the door of Wachovia or Bank of America, and if they don't want to do it, then you all need to get politically involved. But the reality is that if you all have an opportunity to get work from us, you ought to be able to get a accounts receivable kind of loan at 3 or 4% like everybody else. And right. Well, no. Well, look, when we borrow money from the banks that are going to be dying to make loans to us, B of A just lent us $340 million in New York City. When they want to do our business, we'll encourage them to make small business loans, but that's on you all too. How can you, again, this is Charlotte, and so if you all have good credit and a good business, you should be able to get a loan, or something's wrong, and if something's wrong, you should expose it. But to just quietly accept it isn't an outcome. By the way, and I can say this from personal experience. Now, I told you before, my father was an auto mechanic, okay? My grandfather was a janitor, and my paternal grandfather was a hotel doorman. So no one gave me anything but an opportunity. But it takes a lot of fight to get to be successful. So, and you're going to hear no far more often than you're going to hear yes. But you got to keep pounding and expect yes, and then you got to expect fair and demand fair treatment, because nobody's going to give it to you. Because I think we're the only developers right now conducting these kind of forums about how you can do business with us, right? So if it's just this project, everybody will be out of business. So the idea is to help build capacity, help you all get more business, so you can have 30 dump trucks, after doing business with us, and hopefully some credit facilities. But and we talked about that earlier. Access to capital is the biggest challenge, right? Access to opportunity, access to capital. But with opportunity, you should be able to attract some capital in a system that is fair. Again, I think, I'm sure, I would assume that with more and larger credit facilities, you could grow your business even more too. So the reality is everybody has to have access to capital. So these banks, when they do these feel-good ads that I see B of A do, all these magazines, I pick up Black Enterprise, and I'm like, wow, all these banks must be lending everybody some money. And so they got these feel-good moments. You ought to call them on it. You know, at the end of the day, because they're using you for these feel-good moments, they'll make good on it. And if they don't, then you ought to say, Bank of America or Wachovia won't lend minority businesses any money right in their own hometown of Charlotte. I can assure you that they'll start making some loans. Am I right? Okay. All right.
My name is Pratt Patton, and on this man and this man tape, you got to remember where you are. You're in the South, and you're in Charlotte. You're right, the biggest banking town in the world, but we got more problems than the whole other country. Even South Carolina doing much better than we are. Now, everyone, these guys are saying, that's our biggest problem. We don't have access to capital. And the thing that he's talking about, I can't explain that. I don't know how it worked, but I've been involved in it. Those bigger, non-minority contractors, I know because I was scapegoat for some of them. Their companies are so big, like the bricklayer companies got 5 jobs going on, got 40-something people on their job. You know what? They get a check every week. I worked on one, just like he talking about, a trucking contract. But where I was stripped in it, my contract, but if the non-minority was not with me, they tell me when they come pick up my check, I could not get my check. And they were being paid every week. And long as you can get that money every week, like that weekly running, all them trucks or whatever you're doing, all them mason and all that, you'll be able to sustain yourself and you'll be able to grow. But when you ain't got that, it's not gonna happen. Now the other thing gonna happen, if them boys here don't have y'all blessing and glory, the minority who bid on some of these contracts, unless you all don't come in and control those suppliers, you ain't gonna be to buy concrete and mortar and everything. It's what them other guys get it for. Mean your dollar value of contract gonna be higher coming from the minority than for the other. You can't compete unless y'all intervene and you have the power to do it on those suppliers to cut the price. It's a whole lot of issues going on here. And I definitely like to see a look. I believe in your heart you may be doing the right thing, and I think that you can surpass that 35%, but you too have a lot of challenges to make the thing work, especially here in Charlotte. Thank you.
You know, look, we have challenges getting our projects financed. We just keep knocking on doors, and it's a global business. And, ultimately, when we finance our project, we're going to make sure that these banks that we do business with are going to create environments of opportunity for other firms. Monty can talk a bit about the supplier side as well, I think.
Yes, this is a great opportunity to talk about one of the groups that's approaching us right now with some fresh thinking. So this is a second-generation minority-owned firm that approached us and had some fresh thoughts around how we go about supplying our job with materials. And really an interesting capacity story because they've been doing, say, this and this over here, and now they want to do this right here. And there's a lot of similarities across these other 2 platforms, but this third platform, it's a new thing for them. And they've got about 2 years to figure it out. It's a firm that has some capacity. I mean, they're not having issues getting access to capital or anything, but there's certainly some risk there for them because it's a fundamentally new line of business. So I'll point that out just as another example of how this particular firm is attacking additional revenues. And we're talking monies that could ultimately result in, say, 10 to 15% of our overall commitment. They're looking to basically be our designated supplier and pick up all materials. One of the things that does for minority contractors is this master distributor will be negotiating the materials. As a result, the price of all the materials is compressed. Every sub sees the same material number so that when that sub is competing, whether it's against a majority firm or another minority firm, we know that the materials are already established, that those prices are determined, that the smaller trade isn't necessarily paying more than the larger trade who's bidding it. We'll look at other qualifying characteristics, of course, but we hope to be able to fix those numbers on materials. Now, that relationship's not done, but again, it's just an example of how we're working to do things that are creative, and how a minority-owned business that we're currently in communication with is working to do things that are creative that then ultimately benefit the entire sub platform that we'll be working on. So, just encourage you to get outside the box a little bit and go after some things that might feel a little foreign to you in an effort to get down the road some ways.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Fant with the Ubuntu Community Project. I just kind of want to speak to the room on some of the issues. The project that I work with, a lot of the things they're talking about is happening organically among small businesses. A lot of people just didn't know about the project. Like, I posted the 2-minute video in one of my Facebook groups, and they were like, wow, love to be a part of that. All right, come to the meetings. They didn't know anything about it. But as far as access to capital, like the project that I work with, we're more about action than we're not in a planning process. But we have 3 banks, 2 in Charlotte, Mechanics of Farm and First Legacy. They're looking to give money to our businesses, looking to support. Unfortunately, we as business owners aren't looking to support them, but they're looking to see how we can give money, give commercial loans, support projects. And they have a minimum of like $50,000, That's minimum loan. So there are institutions here that are willing if we go to support them. And we're holding our project is holding them accountable about supporting the community, and as well as the preparedness. We knew that was a gap with the financial institutions about the businesses being prepared to get a loan. We call them bank ready, and now project ready. I'm sitting beside Dawn, not by accident. I know her, so want to refer her. We have almost a system in place to say, hey, I need to do this. And we're trying to take the fear out of, like you said, all they wanted to see was the flaps, some steel toe boots. Don't be scared. All I want is an insurance office. That's all I do. I'm not, I'm good on that. But I'm trying to get everybody, it's more of a collective effort versus the self-interest. I don't build anything. I can write you a policy. But I'm concerned about having the access and making sure there are things in place. So if we can come together, I'm willing to share the information. We're having a town hall meeting September 8th for small business owners to come talk to the banks, what we need to do, how can I sign up? And the CEOs are coming, just like Don is here. So it's not a branch manager. So if we plug in, we can get access to this and not have any worries and plug in here. Because I'm going to plug into you all to find out what it means so I can take the information back to the business owners that aren't here.
The bank, one of the banks you mentioned, is interested in being a part of this project, and their scale is nowhere near sufficient to do that, but we can make a decision that they get to be a participant. And we're going to be friendly to those banks that are being supportive of minority businesses. And you got to think about how much money the banks will make off of this kind of a project. So you're looking at one interest rate, they're getting money for free, right? So they're lending it out to us, but they're not paying anything for the money. So in essence, a project like this, a bank will make maybe $80 to $100 million over the life of the loan. That's a lot of money. So we'll have a lot of influence in terms of them helping us by helping provide capital to minority firms. But again, I think the expectation is that one, it's all business, so it's kind of quid pro quo. You deposit and give banks your business, then you come to them and expect them to help you grow your business. I've got different private wealth management banks, J.P. Morgan, Deutsche Bank, all these other private wealth banks coming to me, and I say, look, how are you going to help me? You want to manage some of my money? How are you going to help me make more of it? So they'll bring in the head of real estate and so forth in to tell us how they're going to help us, do business. So same thing, in everybody else's scale.
Good afternoon. My name is, well, I guess it's evening now. My name is Nikisha Glover. I've been participating in these meetings since you started. Again, I thank you all for coming out and making yourself available to the community in this way. In each meeting, I have a different question or a different perspective that I want to kind of engage in. I want to point out also that this is, to Tiffany's point, we have to take ownership of what we want to bring to the table and come together with a plan. Also understanding that it's two-part. We have the developer portion, but we also have the county commission that we need to engage with and ask questions about the project and what we want to see as well. But the question I have tonight is in regards to this project is a wonderful learning opportunity on many different levels for youth, for young adults, and for adults that could be transitioning from one career to the next, or maybe adults that are transitioning and trying to grow their business. I'm just wondering, as a developer, will there be room for internship, apprenticeship, or mentorship programs within the key aspects of the stages of this project, and possibly with key partners? Because I want to make sure that this is something that we can apply the success that we gain in the Brooklyn Village project to other development projects as they're rolled out throughout the city. So I'm just wondering, is there room for education, internship, apprenticeship, mentorship? And that's at all levels, not just youth.
We will, pick up interns here on the development side. I'm sure Stantec has an internship program. Monty at Conformity will have an internship program. We are going to certainly engage all of our major consultants and subcontractors in apprenticeship programs to expose people to opportunity. And also, as I said at the kickoff, we're committed to starting and funding an entrepreneurial academy to start teaching young people how to understand business. The reality is, I think that we all operate. We're in this country. We are operating where there's no limit to what the opportunities can be. And so today we have a more level playing field than we have had historically. But I equate this to, let's say, pick Florida, where I spend most of my time. The Daytona 500. And just imagine now, you've got African-American race car driver and African-American race car manufacturer. So, and then you've got the majority. And both cars, both drivers are equivalent. Or let's say the African-American driver is a little more skilled. But the non-minority driver is starting off on lap 300. And the minority firm is starting off on lap 1. There's no way to catch. No matter how good you are, unless you got a rocket ship, you can't win, right? So that's the challenge that we have, is these banking relationships. Well, everybody else has a 300-year head start. So, of course, they're going to have better banking relationships. They're going to have relationships that go generationally, 1, 2, 3 generations. They're going to have banking relationships with the banks that may span 30, 40, 50, 100 years or more. So it's very difficult to compete, but we can't rewind. So the fact is that it is an unfair system because of historical experience. And so the only way we can right that and to be able to be more competitive is to create more environments of opportunity. So part of this is that you all should expect not just our project, but all developments in Charlotte and in North Carolina to be reflective of the demographics of the city, county, and state. You all ought to be knocking on these banks' doors and saying their lending structures for local businesses ought to be reflective of the demographics of the markets where they're doing business. So that is what a fair system should be, but it won't happen without confrontation and without being able to hold people accountable. And that's just that simple. So look, our company's as good as anybody else. I'm, pretty financially strong, and still I'm competing against companies who are the great-grandson of the founder is running it today. So it's a head start, but we have to figure out a way to win, look, we beat some other very talented developers, including, say, Cornerstone, for example, that's got a strong foothold here. Because we came up with Crescent, who has a strong foothold here. And we were able to overcome that, so with a better product. So that's, I think, the mindset we all have to have, is that a fairness system is just that, reflective of the demographics of the community. And it won't, this is not like, business is so different than, say, civil rights, social rights. Nobody's going to be upset everybody sits in the same restaurant together, but if you can't afford to go in there, what difference does it make? When it comes to sharing money, nobody's willing to do that, right? So I'm not really interested in giving Bobby my money. I like him, but I'm going to fight him hard if we compete for something. That's just the way it is. So same thing, I'm going to fight him hard if we were ever on opposite sides competing for something, right? So I think the mindset here is that that's how we've got to approach this challenge. And our project is the first step. And I would hope that you would begin to hold our colleagues accountable as well, because they're getting their building permits from here. They're getting their opportunities of public safety, the police departments and so forth. You all help pay for them.
I think it's important this project succeed, and we should think not only about participating in what comes to us from the developers, but what we can do to help them succeed. It will certainly be a model for us that could have ramifications far beyond this project. So I think if we are individually part of it, that's important, but it's equally important that it sets an example that this is how we want our community to do business going forward, much of what Don said. I find it interesting that, a project of this magnitude is sponsored by one governmental entity, and there are others that could participate as well, and perhaps they will, but I think the point in that is there are other government-sponsored opportunities that African Americans be part of. In many instances, African Americans make the decision. We have a county manager and a real estate director who's not African American, so we should think beyond what we can talk to our representatives about. So I think we ought to thank them for what they're doing and note that it is well beyond what was required, and think that this should be the model going forward. And if we are not part of it, we can be part of a bigger economic pie by being advocates for it. It's important that our elected officials know that what's occurring is very important, and again, not conditional on our participation. So to Tiffany's point, the reciprocation is important, and to Don and Monty's point, we should think about working together. Just to Monty's credit, by the way, we heard a lot of good things about Don, but I've been in this business for maybe a decade and a half, and Monty's the only majority developer to ever talk to me about a deal that was not government sponsored. So I do think we have a team that understands a situation perhaps different than most. So that's why I personally would like to see them be successful, whether I'm part of the deal or not. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles Rom. I'm owner of Capstone Civil Companies, which consists of two companies. One is Capstone Civil Engineering, and the other is Capstone Civil Group. One's an engineering firm, and the other is a design build contracting firm. We're currently working with Stantec at the moment right now on some of the due diligence work on the geotechnical engineering side and environmental site assessments. But I have a couple of questions, or even a comment. My son is here with me because, this is a legacy company to pass on and to teach him how to go about and do what we're trying to do now. And when I first started out in business, that's what we did. We kind of started out small as a minority partner, a 90-10 partner, a 70-30 partner, 50-50. We flipped it where we have major companies, national companies partnering with us as a smaller sub now to take down bigger opportunities. But I had to find a strategic, path to get there. And so with this opportunity here, one of the questions that I have is that with looking at the build-out program you have and all the different projects that makes up the whole project, is there a particular project delivery that you're looking at, see them at risk, design, build, design, build? I know that some design is underway. So that way, that'll help align with local companies that specialize in those particular project delivery methods.
Well, we can both talk that. We're looking for everything. I think this is a large project. We're looking for everything. We're going to look to find talented firms, talented people to participate in the project, and we will look to find places for them because we want talented people. And by the way, we're in business, so we're doing this and we're here because it's the right business decision to do. It is the right thing to do as a human being and as a business person to create an environment of fairness. And that's all we're doing here. We feel that, the minority firms, and from experience for, 3+ decades, I've found that every minority firm that we've done business with is just as good as their non-minority counterpart, or better. More often, better, because they're going to work harder and they're going to value the opportunity more because there are fewer of them. And so, but we're doing business, and we're looking for every qualified firm, that's capable of doing that. And we'll practice the way I've tried to, as a company, level that 300 lap head start is relativity. So if someone has performed a elevator contractor or an electrical engineer, pick one of them, that's performed on a $2 million job, well, chances are they could do a $10 million one. The ones that have performed on a $10 million one, they could do a $100 million one. I went from 10 million to 30 to 100, and then so on. And it was all the same exercise that I built my first building, is the same exercise we go through with these larger buildings. So relativity is where we will kind of level that playing field more so. And Monty, you should pipe in on this. Okay.
So, my life experience is different, obviously, but I'll talk about scale as well. I mean, my background's in the mountains of Pennsylvania, so I left with an empty ink pen with a $100 bill in it, and best of luck to you, and a boot in the rear end, and off I went. So, almost 15 years ago, I did a deal in Elizabeth that was $3 million, and then I did a couple deals that were $5 to $7 million. And what I want to get to here is not so much my path, but the idea of sponsorship. So along the way, there were folks who I think would tell you that they were impressed by our work, and they became sponsors of a sort, advocates for Conformity Corp. So who are your sponsors? When we won the Southborough transaction, which was a JV with Lowe's Home Improvement Centers, they funded and guaranteed all the work, and we had a bunch of money exposed initially, but ultimately we got that money back when Lowe's came on board, and we went and did the deal together. We were sponsored by designers who felt very strongly about our abilities. They said great things to Lowe's Real Estate Committee, and the rest is history. We were sponsored again in this situation, frankly, by designers who seemed to think that we had some ability to solve technical problems. The Lowe's Home Improvement Center, $82 million. This deal, $683 million. So now along the way, and this is something for lunch or breakfast at some point with the three of you, I've learned some things about my own operating capacity, where I'm spending money, where I'm not, how I got to this place maybe successfully, and this other place maybe not so successfully. Dawn's further down the road than I am, and is the majority partner on this deal. But there's elements to both of our stories that only the y'all in the audience sort of know what applies and wasn't what doesn't. But I want to be available as incrementally that you want to grab a cup of coffee or something and chew the fat about what it is you're experiencing with your business. If I can get that done, and oftentimes I can, I will. We'll just go sit down and talk about your business. So again, just one foot in front of the other, make the decision, push hard. And let's see if we can close some of those gaps and get some additional work moving this direction.
My name is Vakala. I'm a native Charlatan, and I've been attending the sessions as well. I appreciate you guys. As Bobby said, we should take the opportunity to thank you. I do appreciate you, and thank you. In the conversation of business and competition, I just want to kind of speak to the room, and then I have a question for you guys as well. I think that we may need to develop like open-mindedness around business in general, especially how business relates to our community, because I think that a lot of times on the platform of capitalist competition, the challenges that you face are just considered good business, you know what I'm saying, or that's just business. And so things are excused away because of the economical impact that it can actually have. But we might be able to look into new ways of thinking about capital and money and even forming community that answer some questions non-traditionally in terms of why you as a business may pair with another business not from a competitive point of scarcity that we can't get it all, but look at a fullness of how we can all play a role and that we can all, on this one contract, how many different businesses can we have on it? And I'll take little or less just to have that involvement or that engagement from that perspective. That's not necessarily good business in all in all perspectives, but it might be beneficial for us in a city like Charlotte to try to see the change that we need to see. And then, and another example of that, Monty, I would like to speak to you. I don't know if this is the right platform, but when you're talking about creative financing methods that the one company that was talking to, I'm interested in that. I know for myself, I've been looking for different financing models, crowdfunding, or even different financing currencies. Even that might be non-traditional, but it could lend some value to how you may be going out galvanizing, your financial capital. So the question my first question was, is there some type of list of the type of services you're asking for? But I think you just answered that before when you said we're looking for everything. And then my second question was related to the school. Where are you with a time scale in terms of developing not the school, I'm sorry, but your technical program for engagement and apprenticeship? Where are you with that? How does one plug into it? And expanding that question a little bit, as we're trying to get businesses to participate in this process and vie for opportunities, what is it that outside of this, and I came in late, so please excuse me, but outside of if we follow everything to the T here of companies being established or started, what are some ways that we can hold accountable, as you spoke to earlier, when you're exposing the story of, okay, I don't think that this should be how I should be treated or what actually occurred, how would you speak to trying to handle that or put it out to where people understand that, okay, I think that this wasn't the right process? Because you talked about that accountability.
Well, look, I think, we, in terms of, bringing about change, I had the good fortune of being born in Washington, D.C., and grew up in Washington, D.C. I happened to come of adult age when we elected a more radical, progressive mayor whose goal was to change the economic situation in D.C. and empower African-American entrepreneurs. So he and Maynard Jackson were the first two mayors to require, Barry in D.C. created a law in 1979 that required 35% of all the city's contracts to go to minority-owned businesses. So that environment was the environment I started in. So the established majority business people recognized that in order to do business in the city or to win development opportunities, they had to have 35% minority partners. And so the Supreme Court ultimately struck that down, but by the time they had done that, he had awarded the cable television franchise to Bob Johnson, which helped him build BET. He had awarded the trash contract for the entire city to a African-American-owned waste management company. By that time, he had awarded most of the road paving work to one of the largest minority road paving firms in the country that came about as a result of that business. So so now we're in an environment where it doesn't seem as important. So you all have to make it important. It's all about fairness. See, I don't think that we should be in an environment where we say, oh, we're going to do business with minority-owned firms only. This is not about that. This is at the expense of non-minority firms that are just as qualified and so forth. It's all just about fairness, leveling the playing field, and in a fair system, the economic opportunities should be reflective of the population demographics. If you do that, that's a fair system. So that's what we're trying to do. But this is, again, business. And so just like during the Civil Rights Movement, the only way that changed was it got on the media. The TV came into people's living rooms. They saw the injustice, and it was obvious. Economic injustice is quiet. It's almost like cancer. It's a quiet killer, right? So you got to bring it out to the forefront. And like today, think about all the topic we're talking about Black Lives Matter, right? Why shouldn't we be talking about economic opportunities for African Americans matter? Because but that's up to everybody to bring that to the forefront. So part of what we're doing in our small way with our project is bringing that issue to the forefront. So we're bringing it to the forefront. We're having these meetings. They're being televised, and we are setting goals, and we are challenging our peers. So we are creating hopefully, along with the county, a different environment. So now you all can take it as well and have broader expectations. That's really kind of how this has to go about.
Yes, I think back in 2005, Teresa McDowell, Carol Liddy all spoke about partnership and everything about how to do business. So you guys are speaking in that, and I took that apart as my business model. My company is structured as a construction management firm, but we sub out at least about 80% of our work throughout North Carolina. So I would like to help design some of the site furnishing that you guys got or will have, and also some of the building. But here's my question. You talk about bonding, about it's a lot of risk. What or how many types of insurance program that you have in place to mitigate some of your risks to help subcontractors have opportunity on this project? And also, are there any building packages that you have thought of that is not connected to the structure of the building that will play a part in helping the economic growth for subcontractors that can handle or specialize in that? Because I'm one of the guys who's looking for that.
Certainly, there'll be site furnishings. There's a public park involved in this RFP, which has been the source of a lot of consternation and dialogue for some folks. I can think of many contracts that aren't necessarily tied to the vertical improvements, infrastructure contracts, for example. The companies that come to mind when we think about that type of thing in Charlotte are, Blythe and Shellco. How you break through in those instances and find some new relationships is something we're all going to have to work on. But I think the short answer is that there are going to be lots of opportunities like that. One thing I'd ask y'all to bear in mind is that this $683 million, we don't push the go button on day one and plow through $683 million. The project will be phased. So that's one of the great opportunities, I think, is that we've talked about thinking for 2 years. Heck, you can think for 4 or 5 years if you feel like thinking about it that long, with an eye towards, okay, when they move to this phase, which is, say, a $140 million phase, and they're doing this building and this building, and these things will become clear to trades and contractors and so on over time. We're not even crystal clear on it ourselves as we continue to work through how the project will ultimately behave. But that information will become clear, and you'll be able to look at these different chunks of work and think how you might plug in 24, 40, 48, 6 years out, 7 years out, or several times along the way. So lots of different sizes, lots of timing opportunity, and in some cases deep silos, but certainly a very broad horizon in terms of what it is we'll be buying.
I had raised my hand quite some time ago, and certainly she was able to see me, but it's not uncommon for me to experience that kind of delayed reaction, and I just wanted to share that because I find myself, ladies and gentlemen, standing at a counter a lot. And and I can be at the counter for several minutes, and then someone else will walk up. And then they immediately get acknowledged, and they immediately get assisted. So I just wanted to share that because that tends to be my experience. It hasn't always been my experience, but since I've gotten older, I don't know, maybe a couple of extra pounds as an African American woman, I find myself in that situation. And I share that because, as you pointed out a little earlier, that we need to be a little more vocal. We need to not accept the status quo if it's not getting us what we need, and we need to be not fearful to stand up for our own rights. But I just wanted to share with you that that happens to me a lot. But it's not going to make me stay home. It's not going to make me stop what I need to stop, and it's not going to make me not represent my clients. Why I'm the question that I have, several of the questions that I have been answered, so thank you very much. But this is my first meeting, and I wasn't sure whether or not the contract that the project that you're representing here had been awarded to you, and I think that you did mention that it had been awarded to you. And you did mention kind of briefly what you had to go through in order to have that contract awarded to you. Could you just share a little bit more about that? Because you didn't say much that I heard about, and you might have said it in other meetings. That's very important to me as I help my clients. My name is Sharon Alexander, and my company is Rent-A-Grantsman, and I help my clients, nonprofit, individuals, whatever. I write grants and do research and that sort of thing, and a little bit of what Dawn does, but not so strategically. Those are the kinds of things that I do. But also, you mentioned a little bit about the timeline. I wanted to hear a little bit about the timeline. And then I did also want to hear what the gentleman in the orange shirt mentioned, is how we can help you. I really am very, very interested in that.
Great question for those who have not been involved prior or did not participate in any of the other meetings that led up to this one. But the county actually undertook a multi-phase process to address the awarding of this project. We started off with a request for qualifications last October, and we asked for interested firms to go ahead and submit their qualifications, what made them qualified to win a project of this scope. As we moved through the RFQ phase, we narrowed it down to 3 firms who were invited back to respond to a request for proposals, which was significantly more in-depth and included some of the things that we've heard talked about tonight. There were minimums set for park space, there were minimums set for affordable housing, and there was a desire on the county's part to address economic opportunity through the redevelopment of these parcels. And in each one of the cases, the 2 gentlemen you see up here literally knocked it out of the park. They responded well in excess of any of the minimums that were mentioned in the RFP. We worked with the Board of County Commissioners to make a selection, and in June, this project was awarded to BK Partners. So that answers that.
So one thing I want to touch on also here is that our project schedule-wise is it's 10 years. So there will be phases. Monty pointed this out, and it's a very important point here, is that it's not one big, $683 million building. It's a series of smaller buildings, it's smaller dollars over time. So there's going to be opportunity for all scales of opportunity. So some of you all and other companies will be able to have a backlog of business with us. So they'll have multiple opportunities and hopefully work on our project for 10 years. And so that'll be a backlog of business. But however great the opportunity is, it is just one project. Right now, I'm just astonished every time I come into the city, I see all these cranes and so forth. Are you all doing work on those projects? We're changing the marketplace here, right? So we're doing it because by the way, the county picked us, we're very grateful, and we're paying them for their land. And then we're putting our money up to build the building. So it's a private sector deal, public-private. We are buying land from the county, we're building a building with our money and our bank's money. So we're no different than all these other buildings coming up. So the marketplace should demand an opportunity. So that's how you all will build your businesses and grow your businesses. One project's going to be transformative in terms of inclusion, and it'll be transformative because it should change the marketplace. It should say that if BK Partners, if Conformity and Peebles can do it, why can't you all, right? And I think that's kind of where we're going. And then Conformity's doing other business here. He's very receptive. You all should be talking to him about his other projects, right? But I think the mindset here has got to change in terms of you should expect a level playing field in your city, right? Okay? And I think that's really kind of the essence. And then you want to take that third part?
Just quickly, you know, when the RFQ first came out, which is the first phase that Dennis mentioned, and this goes back quite some ways, 7 or 8 months. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but you know, my first reaction really was just I was overwhelmed by a variety of emotions that are tied to the Brooklyn, the Brooklyn history and what transpired there. And I want to acknowledge Gwen Jackson, who's with us here this evening, who helped me out from the very beginning with some key introductions and got some doors open for me so that I could go and talk to folks who educated me on where we are with Brooklyn when we look back, where we're not with Brooklyn when we look back. And I think it was Tom Hanchett, the historian, who said to me, I was sitting with Tom probably the second meeting I think I met with Gwen first. And I said, Tom, you know, I literally have no idea how you do justice here. So I'm all about it. I'm all about going and attacking this problem and coming up with, you know, some creative solutions and doing some new things and kind of mixing it up in the Charlotte real estate community, which I've enjoyed off and on through the years. And I said, I just don't know how to do it. And he said, well, you need to make sure black folks are making decisions. And you need to make sure that black folks are making money. So, you know, we got a decision maker here, and we're all working hard to try and get some of that money out the door and lead on this issue. But again, you know, one of the things that's a little frustrating to me, you know, talking some to Teresa about the practicalities of this effort, is that all we can do is just keep pushing for people to you know, get registered and think through what's holding them up. And I want to point out one other tool on the website, and I'll hush, we'll move on. There is a portal on our website that it says something like, if you've lived in Brooklyn and you have, you know, a story that you'd like to share about Brooklyn, please share that with us. Here we're collecting some of those, well, all of them that anybody feels like sharing. But you can also share other ideas there. So if you've got thoughts on our MWSBE approach, additional thoughts on how we might improve, maybe a distribution list that you know about. Gwen and Teresa both helped us push these sessions as hard as we possibly could out to a number of sessions, I know, or to a number of locations. I know Gwen personally visited the Minority Contractors Association and other trade associations to place flyers. So please feel free to use that website to get other information to us as well. I'm done.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Burwald with Lil Associates. We're diversity consultants, and also I represent the Metroline and Minority Contractors Association. Just wanted to make a comment. You made some really great points about raising the awareness, making sure that we tackle things on the local level. And I just want to say there's a lot of really great organizations, including MMCA, that really do fight and push for what we need for fairness in contracting. But we need people. We don't need individuals with their own agendas, but we need people that can help us push the agendas forward for our businesses. So if you're interested, please see me, Mr. Pride, Carol, anybody who's part of MMCA. We're here to, you know, help you guys push the agenda forward as far as our businesses are concerned. But also wanted to mention to you all, we'd love to have the team to come to MMCA and speak to our organization. And also we would like to help you to provide technical assistance at our facility as well. So that's something we'd like to look forward to working with you in the future about that. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a follow-up question to the question before. When you talked about being creative and collaboration and those types of things, it is, again, I know several people had talked about a list or packages to whereas I want to make sure, find out the onus of when I leave here, what I need to get creative about, and what are those opportunities so that you're spending your time expeditiously on something that you're actually looking for versus coming with something creative that is not even a part of the package. So I guess I would say one of the things that I don't know if you've seen the project in Atlanta where they're doing the new stadium, and they're disenfranchising. Most of those communities are low income, socially deprived neighborhoods. And what their challenge is that the community has asked is to make sure that when those enterprises and that business come back, that those that have been disenfranchised have the opportunity to participate in the work from all of the things, similar to some things that you're laying out. One of the things that the project managers are bringing to the table, and you guys have already thought about this as well, is they're similar to what 8A or some of the other certifications does. They're taking tracts of land and they're only letting minority firms bid on those particular trades. For instance, if there's a shopping center or an office building or something of that onus, and they're telling them to go be creative and work with helping them do their job, is you go find the collaborator, you go find minority architects, designers, you go find the minority trades, you get creative, you come back and help me accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, Mr. Developer or GC, and put that, and then those particular firms, just like you won, have an opportunity to compete for those parcels or for those buildings or for those retail shops. So I'm wondering what that bidding process is going to be and that kind of thing.
My job is to help you clarify what Mecklenburg County is looking for on this particular project. I can sit down with you and talk to you about doing business with Mecklenburg County. The 8A process is not going to be a part of this project. We will want you to be certified with one of the 3 entities to do business on this project. So let's sit down and talk about where you fit.
Hello, everyone in the room. First, I'd like to thank the BK Partners for a very informative outreach session. Thank you so very much. But my question, just one little question, what is like your time frame for breaking ground for phase 1? Like, what year?
If things go well, third, fourth quarter of 2018, not later than first quarter of 2019. But, and Don mentioned this earlier, that, it doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities in the meantime, because we'll have professional opportunities, engineers, architects, attorneys, accountants, that type of thing, disciplines that are particularly difficult for us to make our participation percentages in. So please keep your friends, family, and so on in mind who might have an interest in that work, because that's where we'll be for the next 2 years or so.
It's time to close.
Okay, so yeah, so Jeff Simon mentioned how Stantec is looking for people now for opportunities. So it'll be phased out for a period of time, but there are opportunities that are now and that are available. Construction, yes. Yep. Somewhere in that time zone.
Probably everybody should stop and see Jeffrey Simon before they leave. Every single person should talk to Jeffrey Simon before they leave.
Well, everybody, we are out of time. We had the space till 8 o'clock. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Know that despite Monty's fear, we are in fact recording this, and this video will be available on our website within the next couple of days. Also, we are having another session tomorrow morning at the Belmont Center, same topic. Just because you've been here tonight doesn't mean we don't want to see you tomorrow. So by all means, if you're able to come out, the information for that is on the website as well. Thank you, everybody.